How does one become the top 1%? This is actually a very funny topic for me because the answers are actually just comedic. Uh, if you want to become a top 1% individual, then you gotta be just doing actions that 1% of people do. So then when we think about that, what are things that very few people do? Well, how about have a consistent sleep schedule? Work out consistently, right? And also consistently challenge yourself when you're working out. Consistently eat healthy, right? Consistently read every day. Notice consistently is being used a lot because to be consistent in anything makes you a 1%er. It is said by Naval Ravikant that when you read 2 hours a day, you put yourself in the 0.001 percentile of the entire planet when it comes to volume of reading, the amount of reading you do, or the amount of time you spend reading, I guess, to be more accurate. So it's very simple. Look at all the things that people struggle to do to keep, such as keeping consistent with their habits, and just then focus on making sure that you don't become just that statistic, such that you can become the outlier. Other than just the simple habits, and I will probably still keep going back to that, is that you want to expose yourself to information that is more rare, and also that is less read, not because you want to just for the sake of being different, morely for the sake of you want to find the information that people aren't accessing for some reason, And I also want to hit later on the topic of emotional difficulty. So, for example, most people's information intake is the small snippets they get from tabloids, articles, and YouTube videos. YouTube videos like this one. And people will do serious learning projects, on learning on their own time, where they just look at YouTube tutorials and whatnot. And they don't utilize actually making their own curriculum where they're making book lists, of what books they're going to read. And they also, more importantly, another huge habit that you can implement that will definitely make you a top 1% person is learning the skill of contemplation. And to that, I would love to direct you to Leo Guira's videos on actualize.org on how to contemplate using a journal, and another one, I think, about how to be a sage or something like that, or just on contemplation itself. The skill of contemplation is really just learning the skill of independent thought. Yes, a lot of people believe that creativity is just the, synthesizing of everybody else's information, steal from many and you're an artist, that kind of thing. But there's a whole different domain of knowledge that you can gain when learning the skill of having the courage to really dive deep into a topic independently, making something your own independent learning project. One of my favorite ways to learn is to create a learning project. That's what I'm doing with my when I'm writing my book. Is simply, it is a learning project. And on top of that, so we got the habits, we've got contemplation to be an independent thinker. On top of that, you want to lean into activities that are emotionally difficult. And not just because they're emotionally difficult, but because usually, almost every time, through one way or another, the activities that are the most emotionally difficult are the activities that are going to grow you the most, right? This is how you really become a 1%er. Is when you notice, when you see something like almost silly looking, like a cold shower or a brutal workout, you're like, you think to yourself like, that's emotionally difficult. I got to do that. Because you know that when you can learn how to become an individual that is constantly doing emotionally difficult things, then you will naturally be able to soar to new heights, and you'll be able to naturally be able to do things that other people can't, because they have not developed the emotional strength to be able to partake in those actions. It's emotionally difficult to be consistent every single day. That's why it's very few people pick up something and stick with it and never look back. You know, there's a reason why people, you can be respected when you just pick up something and you just grow with it and you never look back. That's something worthy of respect, because that takes courage. That is emotionally difficult. That is an emotionally difficult thing to do. How many times have you picked up a habit or a hobby and then you dropped it when it started to get hazy, when you had that lack of clarity, and when it started to get difficult, when it stopped being, fun for a while, right? Like, for things to be really fun, you have to plateau through the times of drudgery. That's where like the path of mastery ends up happening. This reminds me of how I think about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where they say that it starts to get really fun at about the blue belt, right? But first you have to, go through the white belt and all the individual stripes to get to the blue belt. And that could take, 3 years to just to get to that point where you've learned all the moves, and then you have all the moves in your mind, and you're able to now play with it in a fun way, right? So, but that's an emotionally difficult thing to get there, right? Most things in life are like that, where to really get started and to get to from getting started to getting to a place where it's really fun, there's a long period in between where it's emotionally difficult, where you're just kind of learning the boring theory. I mean, I think a lot of schooling is like that to a stupid degree, where they just hammer you with like theory, and then maybe eventually at the end you'll not when you first start your work, when you actually get in the job force, 10 years into your workforce, do you finally get to the position that you want to get to, right? That's emotionally difficult, right? So persistence, right? Having persistence with something is going to really put you at the top percentile. Literally just having your basic habits locked down, having nutrition just locked down, such that you're eating such that you have clarity of thought, so it doesn't feel like you're thinking through a marshmallow all the time from all the sugar and wheat and dairy that you're consuming. And also, all the energy that you're going to get from eating the proper foods. And so you got your diet locked in, you get your sleep locked in. There's so many people that don't even value getting enough sleep. And this is just the bread and butter of making sure that you can enjoy your everyday life and also have your brain function properly. It's actually incredibly sad to see so many people that don't even value sleep. So if you want to be a 1%er, get enough sleep for your body. Give your body the sleep that it needs. That is actually what will put you at the top percent. Looking after yourself, that self-care. Along with that is waking up at the same time every day. That's gonna fucking completely put you at distance with everybody else in the room. Because maybe you wake at the same time every day for the weekdays, the work days, but what about on the weekends, right? Are you still have a a routine on the weekends? And speaking of routines, do you have a routine where you're locking in powerful habits like working out every day, right? Just having a routine will put you at a top 1% because nobody has a freaking routine. It's beyond me, right? And it makes sense why so many people are mediocre, because people don't even have their sleep right, their diet right, they don't work out, they don't have a routine, they don't wake up at the same time every day, they don't go to bed on time. Duh, you should have learned this when you were like a child. The second best time was, the first best time was to learn when you were a kid. The second best time to learn is now, all right? And I know, because that sleep for me was one of my biggest struggles that I had to overcome. I had a Gordian knot to untangle to get myself to finally sleep on time. That is a whole nother video. Working out. Do you work out every single day? And I do mean that. Like, you want to get your body moving every single day. Do something. And actually, if you're one of those people that like do like really tough workouts and stuff, what about on your off days? You need to do some sort of movement because it's actually a form of recovery to be, it's active recovery where you just do like lighter tasks to like get your muscles moving still. That can actually help with recovery. And so for me, I just know that I want to feel good every single day and I want my brain to be working optimally. So I gotta work out every day, multiple times a day, actually. For me, that is so important. When the body is well, the mind is well. So we got all the habits, staying consistent. We've got independent thought, learning the skill of contemplation, reading. I mean, it's really not rocket surgery out here, but many of you guys are making it complicated, It's really not complicated. Many of you guys are making it complicated. And, to give you credit for good reason too, because actually learning how to control yourself and learning enough emotional mastery to be able to do these most difficult things does take time. Heck, look at me. I am, after like 5 years of like doing self-improvement, am I finally starting to lock in, perfect days. So it's a long process, And to help you with understanding of just like for you to be patient with this process, think about, the device that you're watching this video on. Let's say it's your phone, for example. How many years would you think it would take for you to understand how to completely reprogram that phone from the ground up? Right? So all the apps and the BIOS and all that stuff. How many years? How many hours of study would you have to take? How much practice would you have to take to actually get that done? That's a very complex mechanism that you're watching this video through right now. So think about that complex mechanism. Point to it. I want you to point to it right now. Okay, and then now that's a complex mechanism. Now take that pointer and point it to yourself. That's a complex mechanism. How many years do you think it's going to take to figure that thing out? Your mind, your body, your consciousness, your emotions, your history, your traumas, all your unique quirks that make you, you. How long do you think it's going to take for you to figure that shit out? 5 years, 10 years, a lifetime? So be patient with this process, but also be proactive with understanding yourself. That's another thing that you can do to make yourself a 1%er. Being proactive. Fucking nobody is proactive. Nobody takes a piece of information like this and like runs with it. They just go to the next YouTube video. And it's a real shame because that's where the real juice is actually sitting with an idea like this and then asking yourself, okay, how the fuck can I apply this to my life? you know, to maximize my potential. So think about that, consider that, and consider that when you watch my other videos, right? When you're thinking about, you know, when you have these concepts, try to apply it to your life, because that's where it's real. That's where the rubber meets the road. You know, find what actions you can take, what decisions you can make based on the information that I give you. Because that's where you're going to really start to get some gears moving and start to make some change in your life. So with that, hopefully this has been a little bit enlightening for you for how to become a 1%er. And with that, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.